Chop it all down. Not one tree left standing. That's what she screamed, right at the cops, her voice echoing through my apple orchard like she was calling it an airstrike. And by she, I mean Karen, self-appointed queen of our non-existent HOA, with platinum curls, sunglasses that could double as dinner plates, and an ego so big it needed its own zip code. Me, I was standing there under the branches, hand on the rough bark of a tree my grandfather planted before they even paved Willowbrook Heights. And as Karen advanced, all righteous fury and pink clipboard, I calmly slipped a card from my jacket pocket. Just one simple move, but man, you should have seen her face drain of color. The cops glanced at each other. Every neighbor on the street seemed to hold their breath, and right then, Karen knew she'd picked a fight she couldn't win. Where are you tuning in from? Ever dealt with an HOA stunt this wild? Because let me tell you, the day Karen tried to erase my farm, she ended up erasing herself right out of the HOA. The morning sun hadn't even crested the hill that day, my usual time for a peaceful stroll with coffee, saying good morning to each of my 47 apple trees. It's a ritual. Some folks do yoga. I talk to old trees that remember my granddad, back when this was all farmland, not some pastel suburb growing like mushrooms after a rainstorm. I'm sentimental, I'll admit. I'll tell the trees about my son Danny's school, maybe gripe about the Lakers. The brass sign at our gate, Sunset Orchard, EST 1953, has weathered a lot, but people still stop for pictures, which always gets me. So that morning, I was halfway through my cup, checking leaves, breathing in the mix of wet earth and sweet apples, when Danny stumbles out, 16, wild hair, pajamas, clutching his phone like it's got launch codes. Dad, there's a lady out front taking pictures. She's got a laser pointer and a hot pink clipboard. I peeked over, and there she was, white blazer, measuring the fence like she's CSI, HOA edition. Turns out, Karen had blown in from San Francisco a few months prior, recently divorced, already making it her mission to improve our little patch of suburbia. 2 HOA meetings in, and, since nobody else wanted the job, she dubbed herself president, clipboard and all. People said she wanted to prove something to herself, build a perfect life from the ashes of her marriage, and I guess her idea of perfect came with a lot of regulations and very little common sense. Watching her measure my property like she was prepping for a zoning trial, I just had to laugh. Here she was, trying to control land that had been here before half these houses even existed, before Willowbrook Heights was a thing. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door, been here forever, once told me. That lady has no idea whose history she's poking. I just handed her some apples for her grandkids and shrugged it off. But standing there, watching Karen document every leaf, I started wondering if maybe I should pay more attention to the old paperwork collecting dust in my garage. That afternoon, after Karen's inspection, Danny gets home from school waving a neon pink violation notice, Comic Sans font, official as a circus ticket, listing 47 separate violations, all clearly aimed at my farm. Some were so made up, I laughed out loud, until I read the part about $500 fines, demands to cut every tree over 15 feet tall, and threats of legal action in 30 days. She'd even drawn sad faces next to her notes. This was beyond bureaucracy. This was performance art. I called the actual HOA office. Turns out, not only was Karen not president, there hasn't even been a real HOA here in 8 years. She basically crowned herself queen of an imaginary kingdom, and I started to realize, people like this don't stop at silly letters. That's when I dug through my granddad's paperwork in the garage. Most of it was junk, but buried deep, I found an old certificate, water-stained, hard to read, but official, Agricultural Heritage Designation, 1953. There were letters, too, legal agreements, city stamps, special protections for our property. The more I read, the more I realized this wasn't just a sentimental farm. My family's land had legal teeth. So when Karen returned, white blazer, knockoff designer bag, pro-grade camera, her tone was all authority. Mr. Roberts, I trust you've reviewed my notice. I held up her pink paper. Comic Sans, huh? Very playful. She blinked, surprised, then softened, almost human. I just want this neighborhood to be stable, organized. That's all. For a second, I saw her, really saw her, not as the villain, but as someone running from pain, trying to control one corner of her world. But she was still wrong, and her method was out of control. I didn't argue. I handed her the 1953 certificate, let her read every faded word. I watched her hands shake, watched that false confidence crack. But even then, she brushed it off. Rules are rules. And you could tell, she'd come too far to back down now. By Thursday, the sky hung gray and heavy. 3 official vehicles pulled up. City truck, government sedan, and Karen's SUV like she was the grand marshal of the HOA parade. Out came Officer Martinez, polite but wary, clipboard in hand. They measured, inspected, asked for permits. Turns out a flood years ago had wiped out half the records, so technically, the property was in a paperwork gray zone. Martinez was apologetic, gave me 30 days to find the missing docs. Karen lurked, phone recording, making sure the whole neighborhood heard about non-compliant agricultural activity. Danny watched from the window, looking more worried than I'd seen him since his mom passed. Mrs. Rodriguez brought over tamales and fire in her voice. Your granddad helped us all. Don't let her destroy what he built. Then something unexpected. Trevor, tech guy from down the street, who'd always sided with Karen out of resale worries, stops by. I did some digging. Your family's farm, it's a big deal. Like, historically, the tide started to turn. Neighbors rallied. Lines got blurry. That night, I dug deeper. Found a sealed envelope. Red ink. Open only when necessary. Inside, letters, city plans, and a bombshell. My grandfather had negotiated not just heritage status, but veto power over all development for a 1-mile radius. Permanent authority, legally binding. I barely slept. Next morning, I called my lawyer, Sarah Williams. She was floored. Your property is untouchable. You can block any HOA formation. Karen's crusade isn't just overreaching, it's flat out illegal. But I wasn't in a rush. Let her dig the hole deeper, I said. Meanwhile, Danny and I talked about responsibility, about protecting what matters, about patience. At the community meeting Karen staged Saturday, she went full PowerPoint, charts and all, preaching about property values. At one point, her mask slipped. After my divorce, I needed to build something beautiful, to prove I wasn't a failure. I felt a twinge of sympathy, but it didn't stop her from pushing her motion. Force my farm to comply, or else. The neighborhood voted her down, but she just glared and stormed out. Later that night, our backyard lights flashed on. I watched from the kitchen as Karen crept among the trees, placing little bottles, trying to fake pesticide violations, snapping incriminating photos for her case. Our cameras caught every move. I stepped outside, calmly asked, "Looking for something, Karen?" She tried the victim card. Safety concerns, I got reports, but her words rang hollow. You can't stop progress, she insisted. You're holding us back. It wasn't about apples or rules. It was about her pain, her need for control. But by trespassing and planting evidence, she'd handed me everything I needed. Sunday morning, Karen called the police, claimed I'd threatened her, broke laws, ruined the neighborhood. 3 squad cars rolled up, neighbors at their windows, the whole street buzzing. I handed Sergeant Williams my grandfather's documents, watched him realize who I was, watched Karen's confidence shatter as she learned my family literally wrote the rules for this area. Mrs. Rodriguez, Judge Wilson from down the block, Trevor with his phone, they all gathered, siding with me. The law was clear, the history undeniable, and Karen's campaign collapsed on the spot. In a final fit, she pointed at my orchard. Chop it down. Then slipped on an apple and tumbled, white blazer, pink clipboard, dignity scattering everywhere. I helped her up anyway. Within days, the paper ran the story, woman attempts to remove historic heritage farm. The neighborhood rallied, raising funds for educational tours. Even Karen's old supporters showed up to apologize and join cleanup days. County officials stamped our legal protections in public records. Karen's appeal? Dismissed. And by the end of the week, a moving truck sat in her driveway, Mrs. Rodriguez handing her cookies, telling me, she's not evil, just lost. Thursday, a pink clipboard appeared on my porch with a note. I'm sorry. Take care of your beautiful trees. No lawsuits, no revenge. Just relief, and maybe a little compassion. Now, the orchard's a registered state heritage site. School kids come for tours. Danny thinking about studying AG history in college. Trevor built a website for us. The orchard's future is secure, the neighborhood more united than ever. all thanks to one woman's overzealous campaign. Funny how things work. Karen tried to wipe out my past and instead secured its place in the future. Our conflict, what started as pink paper and Comic Sans threats, became a lesson in history, law, and patience for the whole community. It showed me that defending what you love isn't about defeating enemies. It's about helping people see what's worth preserving. Some folks act out of pain, not malice. Boundaries matter, but so does grace. So, where do you land? Team Heritage or Team Progress? Ever fought a battle over something everyone else thought was small, but you knew it mattered? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about who gets to shape a community's future and what's really worth fighting for.